Vanessa Caldwell slapped Nia Holloway's lunch tray down onto the stainless steel counter, and the grilled chicken slid into a puddle of cold gravy. "Put it back," she said, loud enough for the entire Kingsley Academy cafeteria to hear. "Students like you use line C." 17-year-old Nia stood perfectly still while more than 200 classmates turned toward her. Her prepaid meal card was pinched between two fingers. Behind her, a narrow line of Black and Latino students waited beside a gray service cart, holding half portions, bruised apples, and milk cartons already warm from sitting out. Nia tried once more. "My account is paid. Please scan it again." Vanessa did not scan it. She looked past Nia toward the man who had just entered in a wrinkled blue shirt, faded jeans, and plain brown shoes. Then she smiled, as if his clothes had confirmed everything she already believed. Marcus Holloway had come to surprise his daughter. He crossed the room without rushing and placed one steady hand on Nia's shoulder. Vanessa called security, tore open his document bag, and dumped it across the counter. A brass Marine Corps coin struck the tile. His late wife's photograph slid under a napkin dispenser. A pledge agreement for $15 million landed face up beneath Vanessa's hand. She never read the name at the top. Marcus knelt and gathered the papers. He did not reveal himself or demand a firing. He sent one message: "Rachel, freeze the Kingsley gift. Preserve everything." Why would a man who could end this in seconds choose to let the whole school see what came next? Stay with this story, because Line C was not one woman's bad decision. It was a system everyone else had learned not to see. That morning, Marcus believed he was coming to Kingsley to honor the past. At 6:15, before Atlanta traffic gathered on Peachtree Road, Marcus stood in his kitchen turning a piece of toast he had already burned. He was 44, tall and lean, with close-cropped black hair, a neat beard graying at the chin, and the patient brown eyes of a man who had learned to listen through silence. Holloway Therapeutics employed nearly 9,000 people and was valued at roughly $4 billion, but none of that helped him remember whether Nia liked strawberry jam on school days or only on weekends. His wife, Dr. Camille Holloway, had remembered things like that. She had remembered birthdays before calendars did, the names of lab assistants' children, and exactly how long Nia needed to be quiet after a difficult day before she was ready to talk. Camille had died 4 years earlier after an aggressive cancer returned. Since then, Marcus had become very good at running a company and painfully aware that efficiency was not the same as presence. Nia came downstairs in her Kingsley uniform, navy skirt, white blouse, mustard yellow cardigan, dark tights, and red canvas sneakers, the dress code technically discouraged, but never quite prohibited. Her shoulder-length box braids ended in small blue beads that clicked softly when she moved. She carried a worn blue sketchbook under one arm and packed her own lunch into a canvas bag. Marcus noticed. "Cafeteria food finally defeated you?" he asked. Nia kept her eyes on the zipper. "I just like bringing my own." It was not a lie, but it was not the whole truth. Marcus knew the difference. He also knew that pushing before she was ready usually made her build a taller wall. "Dinner tonight," he said. "No board calls. No laptop." Nia looked up, measuring the promise against the last 3 weeks. 7? 6:30? "I'll believe 6:30 when I see 6:30. The corner of her mouth lifted. Marcus accepted the small mercy. Kingsley Academy knew Nia as Nia Holloway, scholarship committee volunteer, senior year biology student, and occasional illustrator for the school paper. Very few people knew her father was the founder and chief executive of Holloway Therapeutics. That was partly Marcus's choice and increasingly hers. When she entered Kingsley as a freshman, a teacher had introduced her to another parent as one of the Holloway girls, though there was only one. Invitations appeared. Students who had never spoken to her wanted introductions to internships. Nia came home furious and asked to remove Marcus's occupation from every directory where it was not legally required. He agreed. She wanted her grades, friendships, and mistakes to belong to her. She used no driver, posted no photographs from corporate events, and took the city bus when Marcus could not drive her. Her father admired the independence. He did not yet understand the price she had been paying to protect it. On the shelf beside the kitchen door sat a small brass Marine Corps challenge coin that had belonged to Marcus's father, Leon. Leon Holloway had served 22 years as a supply chief and later worked nights loading medical equipment while Marcus built his first laboratory. The coin was not proof that Marcus had served. It was a reminder of something Leon repeated whenever money made people overly agreeable. Watch how they treat the person they think cannot help them. Marcus slipped the coin into his document bag that morning because the $15 million pledge agreement also carried Leon's name. The planned research center at Kingsley would honor Camille's work, but its community laboratory would be dedicated to Leon, who had spent retirement teaching neighborhood kids how to repair bicycles and never once described that work as charity. The pledge was not a ceremonial check. It was a restricted 5-year commitment governed by milestones, independent audits, and a board Marcus would appoint jointly with the Academy. The final signature would release the first $3 million for construction and faculty hiring. Kingsley's headmaster, Daniel Prescott, had pressed for a quick close before the school's annual Founders' Dinner. Board Chair William Harrington wanted renderings unveiled that evening. Marcus's general counsel, Rachel Monroe, had insisted on one final site visit and a written student access plan. Marcus had agreed. He planned to arrive early, observe the campus without a reception line, sign at noon, and surprise Nia during lunch. The timing felt almost elegant. By 6:30, he intended to be home, making up for 3 weeks of absence. He had no idea Nia had been skipping lunch twice a week. Nia had discovered Line C in September. Officially, Kingsley had 2 cafeteria lanes, Line A for hot entrees and Line B for sandwiches, salads, and allergy-safe meals. Line C did not appear on the school map, family handbook, or nutrition contract. It was Vanessa Caldwell's creation, a gray utility cart parked near the dish return doors. Vanessa said it was for students whose accounts required manual review. In practice, the same children appeared there again and again: a black sophomore whose mother was a surgeon, 2 Latino brothers whose tuition was paid through their father's construction company, a Korean-American girl whose parents had disputed one duplicated fee, Caleb Ruiz, a senior whose mother worked 2 jobs and did receive financial aid, and Nia, whose account had never carried a balance. At first, Nia believed it was a software mistake. She showed Vanessa the green paid status on the student portal. Vanessa tapped the screen without looking and said the cafeteria system was different. Nia emailed student services. An assistant replied that meal classifications were managed by dining operations. She wrote to dining operations and received an automated ticket marked resolved the following day. When she asked Vanessa again, Vanessa leaned across the register and said, "Some families become very creative about what they can afford. I have been here 18 years. I know the difference between paid and sponsored." The word sponsored traveled faster than Nia could stop it. By the end of the week, 2 girls in chemistry were asking whether she needed them to cover field trip fees. Nia could have told Marcus. She almost did. But Camille had raised her to solve ordinary problems before turning them into emergencies, and Marcus's world had become a chain of emergencies. A clinical trial review in Boston, a manufacturing issue in North Carolina, an investor call from London. Every time Nia opened their message thread, she saw the blue bubbles of his apologies and the small calendar promises pushed to another night. She knew he would come if she asked. That was exactly why she did not ask. She did not want a school problem solved because a powerful father entered the room. She wanted the adults already in the room to believe her. Caleb Ruiz noticed what was happening because Line C had been following him since sophomore year. He was 17, narrow-shouldered, with short curls, a Kingsley blazer 1 size too large, and the cautious humor of someone accustomed to making embarrassment look like a joke. His phone camera was cracked at one corner. In October, he began recording dates, portions, card scans, and the names of students redirected from A or B. He never filmed faces without permission. He photographed the green confirmation on their portals and then the red manual review marker appearing on Vanessa's terminal. Nia helped him build a spreadsheet in her blue sketchbook, translating each incident into date, time, cashier, account status, and meal received. It was not dramatic. That was what made it useful. They brought the record to Assistant Headmaster Susan Bell in November. Bell listened with her office door open and her attention divided between them and an email on her screen. She said Line C was an unfortunate nickname for an overflow procedure, not an official classification. Nia placed 7 printed screenshots on her desk. Caleb offered the videos. Bell did not watch them. She promised to circle back with dining. 2 days later, Vanessa called both students to the register during lunch and said complaints that bypassed her chain of command could be considered harassment. That was her first chance to stop. She used it to warn the children who had asked for help. Her second chance came in January, when a new cashier, Priya Shah, questioned the flags. Priya had worked in hospital food service and knew that financial status should not be visible on a meal screen. She asked why certain student profiles displayed a gray C beside allergy information. Vanessa told her it was an administrative control approved by leadership. Priya requested the written procedure. Vanessa changed the schedule and moved her away from the main register. A week later, Priya found a printed list in the office drawer, with 23 student names highlighted in 3 colors. No financial codes appeared beside them, only handwritten notes: watch, review, and usual C. Priya photographed the page, then waited. She had a son in community college and could not afford to lose her job on a suspicion no one else seemed willing to name. He reached the cafeteria at 12:16. The first thing he noticed was not Nia. It was the geometry of the room. 2 bright serving lines beneath digital menus. 1 gray cart against a wall. Dozens of students moving freely between the first 2, a smaller group standing apart at the third. Leon's voice returned without invitation. Watch how they treat the person they think cannot help them. Then Marcus heard Vanessa. Put that tray down. You know where you belong. He followed her voice and saw his daughter. Nia held a hot entree tray in both hands. She had scanned her card at line A, and the terminal flashed green. Priya had nodded her through. Vanessa crossed from the office, placed one hand on the tray, and forced it back onto the counter. Your profile is C, she said. We have discussed this. Nia pulled out her phone and opened the family account. The balance is positive. The meal plan was paid in August. Please verify it. Vanessa barely glanced at the screen. The parent portal does not show internal assistance. I don't receive assistance. There is no shame in assistance, Nia. There is shame in pretending. A few students turned. Someone near the windows lifted a phone. Caleb, already in line C, pressed record. Nia's face did not crumple. That would have been easier for Marcus to bear. Instead, it became careful. Her shoulders came down. Her voice became smaller and more formal. It was the face Marcus wore in negotiations when he understood the other side had stopped listening. He stepped beside her and put his hand on her shoulder. Scan the card again, he said. Vanessa looked at the wrinkled shirt, the faded jeans, and the plain shoes. Parents with account issues go to financial services. This is not an account issue. Your terminal showed green. Sir, I know my system. Then scanning it again should not be difficult. Priya stood behind the register with both hands visible. She said quietly, It did show paid, Miss Caldwell. Vanessa turned on her. I did not ask you. Marcus looked toward the gray cart. The main line served chicken, roasted vegetables, rice, fruit, and cold milk. Line C held half sandwiches wrapped too early, thin soup, bruised apples, and milk from an unrefrigerated crate. Are those meals nutritionally equivalent? He asked. Vanessa's expression sharpened. You do not get to audit my cafeteria. I'm asking a question, and I am telling you this is a private school with procedures. If your family has a problem with those procedures, financial services can explain your options. Marcus gave her the first direct exit. Call student accounts. Ask them to confirm Nia Holloway's balance. We will wait. Vanessa folded her arms. I do not need another department to tell me how to run my line. He gave her the second. Then asked the headmaster to come down. Vanessa glanced at the watching students. Authority was easiest for her when it looked effortless, and Marcus had made it look uncertain. She reached for the radio clipped at her waist. Security, cafeteria, adult male refusing instructions, aggressive posture, possible unauthorized entry. Marcus moved neither closer nor farther away. His hand stayed on Nia's shoulder. My posture has not changed. Vanessa spoke into the radio again. He is escalating. Nia whispered, Dad, please. I can just take the other food. Marcus looked at the gray cart and then at his daughter. You should not have to accept less to make an adult comfortable. Vanessa heard him. That attitude is exactly the problem. She reached across the counter for his document bag. Marcus caught the strap but did not pull. Do not touch my property. Vanessa looked toward the students filming and raised her voice. If you entered a school carrying documents you refused to identify, I have a duty to inspect them. There was no such duty. Priya knew it. Caleb knew it. Even the security officer, approaching from the far doors, slowed when he heard it. Vanessa pulled harder. The buckle opened. The bag tipped. Papers, a pen case, the brass coin, and Camille's photograph spilled across stainless steel and tile. The pledge agreement opened to the signature page. At the top, in dark blue type, were the words Holloway Family Foundation Restricted Gift Agreement. Beneath them, $15 million. Vanessa's eyes passed over the number and settled on the coin rolling near her shoe. Military props do not impress me, she said. Marcus did not answer. He crouched and picked up Camille's photograph first. Nia crouched beside him, but he touched her wrist gently. Stay up, baby. None of this belongs at your feet. Caleb's camera captured the sentence, the scattered pages, and Vanessa standing above them. The security officer, Samuel Green, arrived and asked Marcus to stand. Marcus did, slowly, hands open. Samuel was a retired school resource officer who had worked at Kingsley for 6 months. He looked at the visitor badge clipped inside the fallen bag, then at the pledge document. Mr. Holloway? He asked. Vanessa cut in. Do not let him distract you with paperwork. Escort him out. Marcus retrieved his phone. He did not call the headmaster. He sent a message to Rachel Monroe, the general counsel who had reviewed every clause of the gift. Freeze the Kingsley transfer. Send preservation notices to student accounts, dining services, security, and the board. Include cafeteria access logs, point-of-sale edits, emails, video, and complaints. No deletions. Rachel replied within 20 seconds. Confirmed. Are Nia and you safe? Marcus typed yes. Only then did Vanessa read the first page. The color left her face in stages. Anybody can print a document, she said. Marcus slid the papers into the bag. You are right. A document should be verified. He looked at the untouched scanner beside her. That is what my daughter asked you to do. The cafeteria doors opened. Headmaster Prescott entered with Board Chair Harrington and Eleanor Price, Kingsley's advancement director, all three smiling for the signing meeting they believed was about to begin. Eleanor saw Marcus beside the gray cart and stopped. She had negotiated the pledge with him for 8 months. Mr. Holloway, what happened? Vanessa stepped forward so quickly she struck the counter. This is a misunderstanding about a student's account. Nia said nothing. Marcus looked at his daughter first. Do you want to tell them, or do you want me to? Nia swallowed. More than 200 students waited. She held up her card. I asked them to scan it again. That was all she managed. Marcus turned to Eleanor. The gift is frozen. Rachel will contact you. Harrington stared at the gray cart as if noticing it for the first time. Prescott lowered his voice. Marcus, we can handle an employee issue immediately. Let us move to my office. This is not an employee issue until you know how many people knew. Vanessa tried to interrupt. Marcus did not look at her. No one is to access or alter cafeteria records. Nia and Caleb are leaving with me. Priya should be protected from retaliation. Samuel, please note that request in your report. Samuel nodded and began writing. Prescott wanted the room cleared. Harrington wanted phones put away. Marcus refused both requests. Students were permitted to record in the cafeteria under Kingsley's own policy, as long as they did not obstruct service. He would not ask children to surrender evidence because adults found it embarrassing. He collected a sealed sandwich, the warm milk carton, and a printed receipt from line C. Then he asked Priya to place them in a clear food storage bag, mark the time, and sign across the seal. It was not courtroom theater. Rachel had taught him enough about investigations to preserve what could otherwise become an argument about memory. Vanessa watched the bag leave her counter and finally understood that the moment had moved beyond apology. In the parking lot, Nia waited until the cafeteria doors closed behind them. Then she pulled away from Marcus. The words came sharper than he expected. I wanted them to believe me before they knew you. Marcus set the document bag on the hood of his car. How long? Nia looked toward Caleb, who stood several feet away holding his cracked phone. Caleb answered because she could not. Since September. Marcus closed his eyes. 5 months. 5 months of dinners when he asked about classes and she said fine. 5 months of meal plan charges and skipped lunches, 5 months in which his company calendar had been exact and his knowledge of his daughter's life had not. I should have told you, Nia said. I should have noticed, Marcus replied. She shook her head. That makes it about you. The correction landed cleanly. Marcus nodded. You're right. Tell me what you need now. Nia wiped her face with the heel of her hand. Don't make me the lucky girl whose CEO dad saved her. Find out what happened to everybody else. Marcus looked at Caleb. Caleb unlocked the folder of videos and spreadsheets. We tried, he said. They suspended us from activities this morning for unauthorized recording. Miss Bell said the discipline would become academic if we posted anything. Marcus's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed level. Send everything to Rachel. Keep the originals. Do not edit them. Rachel Monroe arrived at the Holloway home that afternoon wearing a charcoal suit, low heels, and the expression Nia had seen on her father's face when a board meeting turned serious. Rachel was 46, precise without being cold, and had served as Holloway Therapeutics general counsel for 9 years. She did not begin by asking about the donation. She asked Nia and Caleb to describe Line C separately, then compared their timelines only after each account was complete. She collected consent forms from Caleb's mother before copying his videos. She asked Marcus to leave the room for part of Nia's interview so that no one could later claim his account had shaped hers. Marcus agreed. Power, Rachel reminded him, could protect evidence or contaminate it. The difference was procedure. The preservation notices reached Kingsley at 2:12. At 2:19, someone using Vanessa's administrator credentials attempted to export and overwrite a cafeteria profile list. The system blocked the change because the vendor had placed the database under legal hold. At 2:27, a message from Headmaster Prescott to Board Chair Harrington read, "We need to contain this before dinner, offer termination, apology, and confidentiality." At 2:41, Harrington replied, "Protect the school. The gift cannot become leverage." Those messages did not prove they created Line C. They did prove where their attention went once they learned about it. Kingsley hired an outside investigator only after Rachel informed the board that an audit condition in the unsigned pledge allowed the foundation to require one before any release of funds. Marcus did not select the investigator alone. Families affected by Line C chose one representative, the faculty selected another, and the academy selected a third. The review team obtained point-of-sale logs, dining schedules, student account data, emails, complaint tickets, and camera footage. The pattern emerged within days. Vanessa had created the C flag 3 years earlier using a generic manual review field. She claimed it helped prevent unpaid meals from slowing service, but the account data showed that most flag students had positive balances. Race was not stored in the meal system, yet yearbook photographs, surnames, and teacher notes made the pattern visible. 81% of the students repeatedly routed to Line C were Black, Latino, Asian, Middle Eastern, or multiracial. They represented less than half the enrollment. The food records were worse. Kingsley's dining contract required equivalent calories, temperature control, and choice regardless of payment status. Line C portions averaged 32% smaller. Milk temperature logs had been copied from the main refrigerator, even though the cartons sat on a separate cart. Vanessa had instructed staff to use leftovers first. Priya's photograph of the highlighted list matched the manual flags. Caleb's videos matched timestamps in the terminal log. Nia's green scans had been overwritten with a gray C by Vanessa's administrator account 11 times. The system had not mistaken Nia for someone receiving aid. Vanessa had chosen a category and then taught the computer to repeat her choice. The investigation also found 17 complaints over 3 years. 4 came from students, 7 from parents, 3 from staff, and 3 through the anonymous reporting form. Assistant Headmaster Bell had forwarded 6 to Vanessa for response. Vanessa closed 5 herself and labeled 1 parent misunderstanding. Prescott had received a monthly risk summary listing dining equity concerns twice. Harrington chaired the committee that accepted management's assurance that the matter had been resolved. No board member had watched video, interviewed a student, or compared meal flags with balances. The system was not hidden because it was sophisticated, it remained hidden because every adult who encountered a piece of it accepted the smallest explanation that allowed work to continue. On the fourth day, Kingsley's attorneys came to Rachel's office with a proposal. Vanessa would be terminated quietly. Nia and Caleb's suspensions would be removed. The academy would reimburse meal charges and issue a general statement about operational improvements. In exchange, Marcus, Nia, Caleb, and the affected families would sign confidentiality agreements. The research center gift would proceed on schedule. Marcus read every page, then he pushed the packet back. You are offering to erase the record in exchange for correcting punishment that should never have happened. The attorney said public disclosure could harm innocent students and employees. Rachel answered, then protect their identities. Do not protect decisions. Marcus converted the first $3 million that had been reserved for Kingsley into an independently administered legal and counseling fund for affected families. He did not seize money from the academy, the pledge had never been signed, and no transfer had occurred. The remaining commitment stayed frozen pending governance changes. That distinction mattered. Harrington told local reporters that a donor was attempting to control school operations with money. Marcus released only one statement: a gift should not purchase silence. It should never require it. He refused interviews after that. Nia, not Marcus, asked for a public hearing under the accountability provision in the student family charter. The academy resisted until 32 families signed the request, and 6 faculty members joined them. The hearing was scheduled in Kingsley's largest auditorium on a Thursday evening. The school agreed to live stream it, redact student account numbers, and allow every affected family equal time. Vanessa attended with counsel. Prescott sat at the administration table. Harrington occupied the center seat beneath the Kingsley seal. Marcus sat in the third row beside Nia, wearing the same wrinkled blue shirt from the cafeteria, freshly washed but not replaced. The brass coin rested in his pocket. He had brought it to remember Leon's question, not to display it. Rachel presented the evidence without adjectives. First, the official 2-line cafeteria map, then photographs of the third cart, next the nutrition contract. The point-of-sale log showed Nia's green paid scan at 12:14 and Vanessa's manual C override, 43 seconds later. Caleb's video showed Vanessa refusing to verify the account. Priya's photograph showed 23 names. The complaint archive showed who received each warning and how it was closed. Finally, the preservation log showed the attempted overwrite 7 minutes after the legal hold arrived. Vanessa's attorney argued that the C code was financial, not racial. The independent auditor displayed the balance comparison and demographic pattern. A label does not become neutral because the software field is gray, she said. Vanessa was given an opportunity to respond. At first she blamed an inherited system. Rachel placed the creation record on the screen with Vanessa's username and a timestamp from 3 years earlier. Vanessa said senior leadership knew. Prescott said he knew only about an overflow lane. Rachel displayed his risk summaries. Harrington insisted the board reasonably relied on management. A parent named Dr. Aisha Grant stood and read the email she had sent him 14 months earlier, describing her son's repeated placement in line C, despite a positive balance. His assistant had acknowledged it. Each person had one explanation. Together, the explanations formed the system. Marcus was invited to the podium. Camera shutters began before he spoke. He did not mention the $4 billion company. He did not mention the donation. My daughter did everything adults tell children to do, he said. She kept records. She asked the employee. She asked an administrator. She brought a witness. She stayed respectful, while people made her dignity conditional. The only unusual thing about her case is that her father happened to walk in. That cannot be the standard for being believed. He looked toward the rows of students. If this hearing ends with one employee leaving and everyone else relieved, then Line C will survive under a different name. He stepped away after less than 2 minutes. Nia asked to speak. Marcus started to rise with her, but she touched his sleeve. I can do this. She carried her blue sketchbook to the podium. Her hands shook enough that the small beads in her braids clicked against one another. She opened to the page where she and Caleb had drawn the first table of dates. I hid who my dad was because I wanted to know what I could do on my own, she said. I scanned my card. I showed the balance. I reported the problem. None of that was enough. She looked at Vanessa, then at the board. Why should a student need a rich father before adults believe she is telling the truth? The room stayed silent. Nia closed the book. And what happens to the student whose father never walks through that door? The silence broke into applause, but Nia did not smile. She returned to her seat and reached for Marcus's hand. The board recessed for 53 minutes. When members returned, Harrington was no longer in the center chair. The vice chair read the findings. Vanessa Caldwell was terminated for falsifying meal classifications, violating nutrition controls, retaliating against students and staff, and attempting to alter records. She was barred from future employment in the Kingsley School Network, and the findings would be provided to the State Education Contractor Registry for its independent review. Prescott resigned after acknowledging that he had prioritized reputation and fundraising over unresolved student complaints. Harrington resigned from the board. Bell was placed on leave pending a personnel review. No one was marched out in handcuffs. No family was ruined in a single evening. The consequences were professional, documented, and tied to choices each adult had made. The new interim head, Dr. Lena Brooks, abolished Line C before the next lunch period. Every student received the same menu access, while payment questions moved to a private parent-facing office that could not alter food choice. The school installed an independent complaint portal, prohibited financial markers on cafeteria screens, and required quarterly audits comparing service outcomes across student groups. Priya became interim dining compliance coordinator after the investigator confirmed she had challenged the flags and preserved the list. Caleb and Nia's suspensions were erased, and the unauthorized recording rule was rewritten so documentation of suspected misconduct could not be punished as disruption. Marcus did not restore the original gift. Instead, after 3 months of public reporting and family oversight, the Holloway Foundation committed the remaining $12 million to an independent trust. Kingsley could use the funds only through milestone applications reviewed by students, parents, faculty, and external scientists. The proposed building was renamed the Camille and Leon Access Center. Half its laboratory seats would be reserved for students from schools without research facilities. A separate scholarship and meal equity fund carried no Holloway family name at all. Marcus had learned that even a generous gift could become dangerous if the people receiving it believed preserving the gift mattered more than hearing the truth. On the first Monday under the new system, Marcus met Nia outside the cafeteria. He had offered to wait in the car. She asked him to come in. The gray cart was gone. There were still 2 bright lines, but students moved between them, without colored flags or whispered classifications. Caleb stood near the register laughing with Priya about something on his cracked phone. Nia scanned her card. The terminal flashed green. The cashier did not praise her balance or ask who her father was. She simply said, "Chicken or pasta?" Nia chose pasta and added an apple that was not bruised. Marcus carried his own tray to a table by the window. For a minute they ate without speaking. Then Nia opened her blue sketchbook. She had drawn the cafeteria as it looked before. 2 bright counters, a gray cart in shadow, and a line of students separated by empty floor. On the next page she had drawn the same room without the cart. The students did not look triumphant. They just looked busy choosing lunch. "Better?" Marcus asked. "Normal," Nia said. "That's better." He nodded. His phone vibrated once in his pocket. He did not check it. Nia turned a page and looked at him. "Do you think they would have listened if you weren't you?" Marcus considered giving her comfort. She had earned honesty instead. "Not soon enough," he said. "Maybe not at all." She stared down at the drawing. "Then we weren't done at the hearing." "No," Marcus said. "We weren't." Nia took a bite of pasta, then pointed her fork at his untouched apple. "You paid for that." Marcus smiled and picked it up. Around them, the cafeteria moved with the ordinary noise of trays, chairs, and unfinished conversations. Nothing about the room looked historic. That was the point. Marcus had entered Kingsley planning to put his wife's name on a building. He left having learned that a name on glass meant very little if children beneath it still had to prove they deserved the same meal as everyone else. Vanessa believed Line C worked because the students standing there had no power. The school believed the complaints could remain small because each family stood alone. They were both wrong. Power was not the $15 million Marcus could freeze. It was the record Nia and Caleb kept when adults told them nothing was wrong. It was Priya saving a photograph. It was families refusing private apologies in exchange for public silence. A child should not need a CEO for a father to be believed. A paid lunch should not become a test of belonging. Indignity should never be the premium item on any menu. If Nia's question stayed with you, share this story with someone who understands that recording injustice is only the beginning. The harder work is building a place where the next child does not need proof to receive what was already theirs.